everybody. Welcome.
There was an
Welcome
edit,
back.
everybody. Just so you know, there was an immediate edit.
Kelly said I could say that phrase as many times as I wanted. It's only going to be
did.
one, but I had to get it out right in the beginning.
I did. I miscalculated. Mike has some level of judgment. He knows that I'm just joking, and no, that was foolishness on my part. Hey, by the way, be sure to like and subscribe to Pog Fan.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go.
And you are watching Squat Cobbler. I'm Mike at Official Pagan on everything, and joining me as always.
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram.
And especially Twitter. Kelly's definitely on Twitter way more than I am. I need to correct that. I keep saying that I will, and I never do.
Yeah, I got to re-engage a little bit deeper because Instagram's been probably my more regular postings on that, but I got to get back in the Twitter swing. I am ahead of you, but I too need to reinvest a little more energy on that because it's a great platform.
Yeah, I mean it's been in the news a lot lately too.
Yes,
so
there has.
jump on it while it's
a thing.
yeah,
So,
ride that wave.
there you go.
But what we're here to talk about today, classic gaming, retro gaming. We already talked a little bit about Arcade 1-Up's many CES announcements, but a couple more things leaked out. One of them was clearly not intentional because it was very quickly taken down. Made sense, though, because the Arcade 1-Up guys had sort of alluded to some other machines that we didn't see, and they'd even mentioned, something for the Mortal Kombat fans coming. I myself am a Mortal Kombat fan, so I was kind of wondering where that was. And then GameStop put up a listing. We mentioned their legacy cabinets that they have coming out with 12 games on them. The more arcade exact look, those, and they are bigger as well. I looked at some of the specs. They're bigger than the standard Arcade 1-Up. They're heavier. 12 games on each. There is there's a Midway Legacy Edition coming, but it's modeled after Mortal Kombat. It's going to have the 3 games that are on the existing Mortal Kombat cabinet, as well as other Midway titles on there. Some I was kind of interested in. But what were your thoughts seeing this? And again, obviously, they were not meant to put this out. They pulled it down very quickly, but tons of people had already seen it. Were making videos about it. I suspect the reason they had to pull it down and the reason it hasn't been announced yet, which a couple of people have touched on, it's likely licensing issues. Maybe a couple of those games they posted aren't 100% confirmed yet.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I'd be interested in your reaction of the class, and I know to a degree you're kind of a Capcom guy in general, but as we briefly saw, the list of games that are going to be on the Midway Classic cabinet, this is a strong contender for me. If I were to pick one of the classic cabinets to get, it with the game list that's there, it has jumped up on a list of me because you've got the Mortal Kombat stuff. And then it has Joust. I had kind of forgotten that these were Midway properties or Midway related, but it has Joust, which I believe in some previous episode I've talked about that probably being my favorite arcade game. So Joust is there. Tapper, which is a strong game. We'll talk a little more about Tapper in a second. And then Wizards of War, which is kind of Berserk with dragons, I guess. To somewhat.
Okay, so that's actually the only game on there I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah, it's got the kind of Sinistar mock you while you play stuff going to it.
Okay.
With it, but it is kind of gameplay wise. I'd say in kind of the Berserk camp. The color palette's very similar to Berserk. The sprites and stuff are different, but it's got a good play. And it was interesting. A couple other folks talking about this cabinet were going, well, I don't really know about Wizards of War. That was a staple in the arcades for me growing up. That was always there, and it's a good game. It's a really solid, fun game to play. So that is a strong addition. So the lineup is really good. Paperboy's on there as well. And so
they surprise some people. I'm a huge Paperboy fan.
It's a good game.
Yeah, so I was actually, that was one of the ones I was most excited about. I hope if there is a licensing issue and something's getting swapped out, it's not Paperboy. That was one of the ones I was really excited to see.
Yeah, now I like Tapper. My most of my experience with Tapper has been with ports, and now with my Legends Ultimate. And so I've been playing it with the controls available on the Legend Ultimate. There seemed to be some conversation around, of all the games on there, Tapper was the one that would benefit the most by having a dedicated play system to Tapper. And I'm not sure what that would be. I don't know if you played. I didn't play Arcade Tapper much. I played it, like I said, on ports and all that. Do you remember what was going on with that console? Why the people would want a dedicated control panel for that?
No, but so I had seen a couple of comments about that. So the form factor is Mortal Kombat. I have the Mortal Kombat cabinet. I Mortal Kombat probably more so than any other arcade game is what I spent the most time on. So I'm very familiar with the Mortal Kombat cabinet and layout. What's good about Mortal Kombat is there's a lot of buttons, so you could format almost anything to a Mortal Kombat cabinet in that sense. Um, However, Paperboy did have bike handle style controls
Yep.
for the arcade. So that's a little bit different. And again, I'm sure you can reformat it. We've all played Paperboy on a million different platforms. So could easily reformat it. Tapper, I saw people mention as well. So my exposure to Tapper was much later. It was actually on PlayStation. There was like a Midway Classics collection that had like 20 games on it, and Tapper was one of them. I knew Tapper existed, like people had talked about it and things like that, but that was the first time I ever really played it. I did really enjoy it though. But
Cool.
yeah, I think there is a couple of games on there that had unique controls for them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of plays out. But it's a strong lineup for
Oh
me,
yeah.
and so it is where I struggle a little bit is with Coin Ops X. It's like, well, I've got all those games. I've got Wizard of War. I've got this. I've got
Right.
that. But I don't know. It is a little tempting, particularly because to get a Mortal Kombat themed cabinet sitting beside the Legends Ultimate. That's intriguing. Still would rather see Legends Pinball sitting next to it, but
Right.
depending, I guess that's. And I'm trying to remember. Well, it's the other cabinet. We'll talk about price point. Was there a price out on the very briefly existing GameStop thing for the Midway cabinet?
Not that I saw, but I believe there is a price attached to the Pac-Man Legacy one, which I think was 400.
Okay.
So I
Boy.
think that's what people are kind of assuming these are all going to come in around. And these are with the light up marquees. They are the larger, heavier cabinets as well.
That's a good price point.
It is,
that puts
yeah.
it in
And
contention. That's for sure.
it definitely, and I mean, this actually shot up to the top of the list for me now. I think I'm going to be upgrading my Mortal Kombat. So I'll probably sell off the existing one to kind of chip a little bit away at that 400 on there. But I would definitely be upgrading a larger one, larger cabinet, light up marquee, still the same Mortal Kombat form factor and graphical implications on the side and all that good stuff. So just more games. I love Paperboy. I really can't stress that enough. Also, too, Rampage
Oh yes, yes.
was mentioned on there. There is a Rampage cabinet from Arcade One Up, which was something that I considered, and our friend Vex actually has that one, the Rampage cabinet. I'm a huge Rampage fan, so again, this is just a really strong lineup of games, and an upgrade size wise and with the marquee over my existing Mortal Kombat.
Do you have a riser for your Mortal Kombat?
I do, but it's a generic one. It's not the Mortal Kombat riser. So this is going to have a specific Mortal Kombat riser
Okay.
to give you the full arcade look to it.
Interesting. So, yeah, we continue to get lots of interesting choices out there for new and different things. So, I might be talking to you about how you get rid of that Mortal Kombat cabinet.
Okay.
So, we'll see.
Excellent. Um, so another thing that was announced, another thing they had hinted at that we hadn't seen, they said that there would be something for the driving game fans. prior to this, they had released the Outrun cabinet, which is sit down, very similar form factor to my cockpit style Star Wars cabinet that I have. Um, but they have announced, is it on Walmart? I think it's up for pre-orders. There is going to be an Outrun stand-up cabinet. As we discussed, I'm not a huge driving game person personally, so I don't know that stand-up is going to sell me more on it. I get it though, like size-wise, having that bench that sticks out from it obviously takes up some more floor space. So I understand for somebody who wants Outrun, doesn't have the space for the bench. I get it. It is a lot pricier though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it was coming in at 550.
Yes, it was. At least
Yeah.
on what I saw, which yeah is a lot pricier. And it
Yeah.
also we had talked a little bit about. So I didn't get a chance to look at the dimensions of it, but with the other arcade one up versions that were 75% size, you could do the
Mhm.
riser, and you basically kind of square up to a pretty decent sized play for adults. If Outrun doesn't come out of the gate it at that kind of size, it did look to me, based on the pictures I saw, that it's got. We talked about this a little bit on a couple episodes ago too. It does look to me like the accelerator is down at the bottom.
Right.
That there's foot controls, and so which kind of negates the ability to use a riser, unless you find a way to stick it in the middle, maybe, I guess, but I don't know. Could be tricky. So I'm hoping kind of the cabinet itself would come, particularly at the prices. Maybe that's why the price is higher, is that they had to kind of come out with the cabinet at a certain kind of dimension to make it make sense with the control on the floor.
That does, yeah. And again, I'm sure, having the foot controls and everything, I do understand where that adds to the price point. Star Wars is more money, whether you get the stand up or sit down version, because of the flight yoke on it, which is metal. So just like the original one. So, I mean, I understand where that does add to the price point of it. And again, I'm not a big driving game person, so maybe I'm not the one to kind of talk about it. I don't know where a stand up driving game would really put me. Like with Star Wars, it makes sense. You're just, holding the control. There's no foot action involved there. What do you think about standing and driving?
Played. I mean, that was a configuration for a lot of the arcade uh, games. There, I certainly didn't think it enhanced the play. It was, to me, at best a wash. That if I had controls for acceleration and shifting buttons that I could hit, or joysticks that I could shift to do things, I didn't need the foot action as well. So I mean, it was, thematically it made sense. Oh yeah, it's an accelerator. Okay, makes, that makes sense. So I get that piece of it. But in terms of making it better gameplay, to me, at least personally, it was a wash. I could have those controls up on my control deck, and I'm just as good as if I'm doing that. And given the fact that I'm limited in the coordination space, probably limiting it so I don't have multiple appendages going at one time, I'm fine with keeping everything up on the control deck. What about you?
So not being a big driving game person, most of my the one caveat to that is Road Rash. I don't know if you played any of the Road Rash games.
I don't think so.
I love the Road Rash games, particularly the original three, which were for Genesis. But Road Rash did continue through a few generations of consoles. So there are numerous iterations and sequels and spin offs and things like that. But the original Genesis Road Rash games, I was a huge fan of. But those were all, controller based games. So I just don't have a lot of experience with driving games as far as the sit down version of it. I have played them, but just didn't have a ton of appeal to me. Maybe it's because I don't drive personally. So it never really had a ton of appeal to me, racing games or anything like that. And the sit down form factor of it, when I'm in an arcade, to me, I'm thinking of standing in an arcade machine and playing. My friends standing around, us all taking turns and playing and stuff like that. Just doesn't work the same way for me. It's not the same ambiance to it. So just doesn't quite click for me. I understand though, like if I was into driving games, I would be excited about these initial home driving cabinets. I don't know about standing versus sitting though, because I do feel like if I'm that into it, I'm going to get the sit down version of it.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to really come as
Yeah.
close as possible to replicating the driving experience, the sit down would make more sense.
Yeah. And at a $550 price point for the stand up, that would either way be a deal breaker for me, especially, look at the Midway cabinet at, probably in the $400 range for everything you're going to get for that. It's an easy, there's no competition for me.
There's just, I mean, again, go back to the lineup of games that are going to be on that Midway cabinet. It just varies, to me. Again, it depends what you like to play, and
Right.
to have something with the steering wheel and kind of the whole mojo going on with the, and Outrun's a good game. It's fun, but I just, well, to me, it wouldn't be even close either. If I'm deciding between the two, it's not a long ponder before I decide where I go.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, I think that about covers everything.
I think so for this week too. Again, we're keep moving along with some nice additional views, some nice additional subscribers. So we thank you all for that. We're also getting a pickup on comments, folks asking questions and such. Working as quickly as possible to get you responses when we can on those. So please continue to do that. We do appreciate it if you've subscribed. We greatly appreciate it if you're watching. So thanks for joining us again this week.
Thanks, everybody.